welcome back to 6 and 6, where we cover 6 stories from around the world in 6 minutes or less. With that said, start your timer. We begin today in Argentina, where a transfer has been blocked by a U.S. judge ordering that UPF shares in satisfaction of $16.1 billion in illegal judgments stemming from the 2012 nationalization of the energy company. This ruling represents one of the largest judgments against a sovereign nation and signals significant potential consequences for the foreign investment in Argentina. The decision grants Burnford Capital, which financed the claim on behalf of former YPF shareholders, more leverage in enforcing a substantial legal award. From Reuters, quote, U.S. District Judge Loretta Preska decision reaffirms the previous judgment, which found Argentina liable for breaching its contractual obligations to YPF shareholders when it excorporated the company, end quote. Next, we travel across the Atlantic to Cameroon, where the upcoming 2025 presidential election is marked by growing uncertainty, with a second key ally of President Paul Biya announcing their candidacy. Paul Biya, who has ruled since 1982, has not yet confirmed whether he will run again, creating speculation about potential secession and internal party dynamics. The development suggests potential shifts in the ruling party's leadership. From Reuters, quote, a second ally of Cameroon's longtime president, Paul Biya, entered the race to be the next leader of the nation, heightening speculation about possible successors as uncertainty lingers over whether Biya will run again in 2025, end quote. Next, we travel to the Caribbean, where China is emerging as a pivotal economic supporter for Cuba, gradually replacing Russia's traditional role in the region. Beijing's strategic approach involves comprehensive investments into infrastructure, telecommunications, and energy sectors as a part of a broader Belt and Road initiative. These investments provide Cuba with economic relief, geopolitical leverage, while allowing China to expand its influence in the Caribbean, challenging long-standing U.S. regional dominance. From Reuters, quote, as Cuba navigates a treacherous economic landscape marked by dwindling Russian support and Western sanctions, Beijing's footprints have become increasingly noticeable across the island. This quiet supplanting of Russia is not merely symbolic for China, it represents a strategic foray into the Caribbean, end quote. Next, we travel to Asia, where the Dalai Lama, currently 89, is living in exile in India and plans to reveal his succession plan in 2025, introducing unprecedented possibilities such as a female successor for someone located outside Tibet. This decision is highly sensitive, with China asserting political control over the traditionally spiritual reincarnation process, with Tibetan followers maintain that the selection has remained a religious and cultural tradition. The upcoming succession will not only impact Tibetan leadership, but also potentially influence global perspectives on religious autonomy and cultural identity. From Reuters, quote, there is a rich tradition and a deeply spiritual process involved in the selection of the Dalai Lama. By asserting political control over a fundamentally religious and cultural process, there is a fear that the essence of the tradition could be diluted or even lost. For Tibetan people, this decision is not just about spiritual leadership, but about identity and cultural continuity in the face of external pressures, end quote. Next, we travel south to Australia, where home prices experienced significant growth in June, driven by falling interest rates and robust demand in major cities like Sydney and Melbourne. The CoreLogic Home Value Index showed the strongest monthly gain since the market's recent downturn. From Reuters, quote, the Home Value Index covering the 8 major cities rose for the month, marking the biggest leap since the recent market downturn. Sydney's market led the rise, with significant upticks, while Melbourne followed closely, the CoreLogic report said, end quote. And finally, we travel to Europe, where an intensely early summer heat wave has triggered significant wildfires across Turkey and France, with record temperatures over 40 degrees Celsius driving dangerous fire conditions. In Turkey's southwestern Mogla province, in France's Provence region, authorities have deployed extensive firefighting resources to combat rapidly spreading blazes. These emergencies underscore the growing impacts of climate change, highlighting increased risk of extreme weather events. From Reuters. Over 100 firefighting aircraft and helicopters have been deployed with personnel on the ground fighting to prevent the flames from reaching more populated areas. These back-to-back emergencies highlight the urgent need for coordinated climate action and stronger preparations to safeguard communities from the worsening impacts of global warming, from Reuters. End quote. And with that, if you want to check out any of today's articles, you want to read any of them in their entirety, all the links will be down there in the description below that like and subscribe button. Also down there, you can find the podcast on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Podvine, as well as the Twitter handle at Your Daily Flip, where I post the links to these episodes on Tuesday and Thursday, and the more US-focused, US-based podcast that comes out on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So, with all that said, there's only one more thing to say. Stay safe. Don't die.